Hey guys, welcome to the Infinity Podcast. I'm your host Warren. Today I've got a special guest. We're having a chat with one of our members who's been with us for just over a year. This is Karina. So we're going to be talking about Karina's journey, a little bit about where she came to us, how she got there, and some of the things that she's learned along the way. So welcome to the podcast, Karina. It's great to have you. Can you just let the guys at home know a little bit about yourself, where you're from?
So I'm Karina. I've been at the gym for a year and 2 months.
Yeah.
I'm from Billingham, and before coming here I was sort of still living in lockdown. I work full time. I've got a daughter. Yes, I've got seven chickens.
7 chickens. 7 chickens. And we love the eggs. There's actually some in the gym, I believe, at the minute. When you mentioned there, you mentioned you were living in lockdown. Like, what do you mean?
So I love lockdown. I still went to work. I was a key worker. I like my own space. I liked staying at home. And since lockdown finished, I continued staying at home. I went to work and took my daughter to school, took her to her clubs, and that was pretty much it. I stayed at home reading my books before I started at the gym.
So you loved all of lockdown then?
I loved
it. See, the first part of lockdown, I think quite a few people enjoyed the first part because it was just quiet, it was sunny, it was going out. But when it come to winter, I think that's when the realisation hit, that first winter that we had, and everyone was just like, right, we're over this now. So, I mean, what led to you to seek out health and fitness then? Because before we jumped on, we were chatting a little bit about, like, you'd followed us for a while. So what sort of led up to the point that you reached out to us?
So I jokingly said to my daughter that I would be a part of the Paris Olympics, and that I could be a weightlifter easy. So I actually Googled to see which companies around my area did that kind of thing, and you guys popped up. So I was following you for a while, but it wasn't until I hurt my spine. I had a disc burst, and so it was about a year of not being able to move. I was off work for quite a while, and when you don't move and you continue to eat, you pile on the weight, and I got to the point where I was the biggest I'd ever been. Yeah. And that was emotionally quite hard as well. So I knew I had to do something. I needed to stop that in its tracks, sort of thing.
So what happened? What caused the disc to burst?
Nothing. There was no sort of sudden impact or anything like that. I was up in Scotland, seeing my dad. Like, I was on some decking, and I was just leaning over, and then all of a sudden it was just excruciating pain. Didn't know what had happened. Had to drive back 2 hours in the car, so when I stood back up again it was horrendous. And yeah, they just said it was a burst.
How long were you dealing with it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long was the problem there for? How long did it affect you?
Probably about a year and a half.
Year and a half?
Yeah.
So a long time. And what was the process with, like, the care? What happened? Did you go doctors, NHS? Like, what happened with the journey with that?
So I ended up going privately because my work has a insurance type thing. Okay. So I went privately, got an MRI. The basics said it was burst. There's nothing you can do. Try and keep mobile. Here's loads of drugs. Went to the GP. They kept on giving me drugs, but it was just there was no end date. And I think if there was an end date, like, you can sort of figure it in your brain. But it was just constant agony. There was a time where I was possibly going to get fired from work, so that was like additional stress because I couldn't do my job role. But it was really dark times for me. You can't go and do the things that you do for your kids. You struggle to put your own socks on, kind of thing.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a huge stress and a huge mental challenge, as well as like the physical one that you were dealing with. So you mentioned there that you were potentially going to lose your job. Was that as a result of the amount of time that you'd had off? Like, what was going on there? It
was when I was starting to get back into my role. I was working like a phase return, and because I couldn't do what my job role needed from me, that they were going to sack me, basically.
Right. Okay. So, like, what you do at work, are you happy to talk about that? Like, what is your role like? What does that involve? Just so we've got an idea about.
So basically, I monitor clean rooms to make sure that they're in good microbial control.
Very Extremely clean.
Yeah, just for the manufacturing process of an active pharmaceutical ingredient.
Yeah.
We're working with bacteria and stuff, but it's a very physical job. So you
Yeah.
have to take like machines that monitor the air. You have to put like Tyvek CSI type suits on, stepping over benches and bending down to monitor different parts.
You know that you do this job. Was it laughable the amount of stuff that people were doing in lockdown then to try and be clean?
Yeah, 100%.
Like we once got reached out by one of these steam things for the gym to steam the air and to clean the air and clear all that out. I mean, I don't know whether it actually works or whether it's just a load of rubbish. But I'd seen that a lot of gyms had used this sort of stuff, and I imagine like for you, you'd just be like, oh my god. But yeah, if it's a physical job and obviously you're finding it really difficult to do that, I imagine that's super challenging. And you mentioned that it was a struggle with your daughter as well. What sort of limitations were you noticing there?
Or even just being able to get out of bed pain-free. But like driving to places, I couldn't sit for any prolonged period. I couldn't stand for any prolonged period. So even like parents' evenings, sports events, any music kind of things, everything was affected.
And when you say affected, like, how did you notice it? How was it showing up to you?
It was pain, and I knew that I just couldn't do it. But there was some serious dark thoughts in that time. Like if this was going to continue on forever, there'd be no point.
Yeah,
it was quite serious.
Yeah, so I mean, it's awful to think because obviously when you've got no end in sight, and I mean just jumping back, you have private medical care through work. You'd got an MRI, so I imagine that happened pretty quick. Yeah. Because usually you're not waiting the 12 weeks to 6 months what you get on the NHS currently. But I mean, from that you mentioned that you just like keep mobile. Now, for anyone who's not aware, it's really difficult to know what that actually means to someone because like you're trying to be mobile. You're trying to go to work, you're trying to do your everyday stuff. You find it difficult to show up as you were previously. And this is from something that you've essentially bent over. It's not like lifting weights in the gym. Yeah. You've not had a fall, you've not had a car accident. Like this could happen to anyone.
Yeah, that's it.
And it's led to like being in a really, really dark place, as you mentioned. So what was the turning point? Like you've dealt with it for a year and a half. Like what made you decide, I've got to do something myself about this?
I think it was mainly the gaining the weight and being the heaviest I was and knowing that weight wasn't going to help my back anymore. I needed to change my path.
Yeah, so when you were noticing the weight gain, like do you know how much you'd gained or how was that occurring that you noticed it? Like was it just the way that you felt day to day or were you noticing in the mirror?
Mirror, clothes, we're not a scales family. We don't do that.
Yeah.
But how I felt, you know yourself when you lie down and you turn over, it feels different.
Yeah.
But clothes definitely.
Yeah. Okay. And when you had the back pain, it's like year and a half there. Like when was the point that you were starting to think, I'm noticing the weight's going on?
Probably just when I'm probably at the end.
Towards the end?
Yeah.
So a year and a half after you've noticed the back pain, after you've been dealing with that, and it's getting towards the end, so you've got all those dark thoughts going on. And what were your thoughts at that time? What were your thoughts like around, like, obviously I need to do something, but what were you thinking about, like, this is what I can do for this?
I think it was more, I need to move more. I need to get stronger. I need to, this can't happen again. There was definitely like a turning point in my mindset where I was like, I can't give this for my daughter. This is not enough for my daughter.
So that's a powerful driver. A lot of people will reach out to us and they'll say similar things like, I want to be there for my kids. And you've mentioned Rosie a couple of times like there. Obviously, we'll touch on some of the changes that you've noticed since you started. But when you decided to reach out then, like, can you remember what it is you'd said you wanted to achieve with it? Because you've gone from this point where you've been looking and been like, oh, I'm going to go to the Paris Olympics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You've been struggling with back pain, which, I mean, if anyone's seen weightlifting and then you were dealing with back pain, you're probably going to wince at the prospect. You probably experience pain just by seeing it, because it is quite a fast and powerful and challenging movement to do, or sport to do, if you like. What was it that you had reached out and said when you first wanted to make that change?
My main driver was to lose weight.
Yeah.
I didn't like being the biggest I'd ever been in my life. I didn't like feeling, I felt fat. I looked fat, my clothes weren't fitting. I just wanted to lose weight. It was my main driver.
And since you've been with us, we talked a little bit about the results that you've seen with this, and you mentioned something which we'll go a little bit more in depth on, about like not being a scales family. There's lots of ladies who they've done this their whole life. Like, we still meet people who are in their late 50s, early 60s, early 70s who are still infatuated with what they see on the scales. BMI is everything to them. But since you've joined, you haven't jumped on the body scanner that we used since July last year.
Yeah.
But are you still noticing that you've been able to maintain those changes that you've seen?
For me, I'm seeing muscles that I've never seen before on my body. Clothes are fitting a lot better. There's a coat that I can do up now that I used to have to like keep the bottom bit unzipped so I could walk still.
Also, it's got two zips.
Like, when I sat down, I used to have to like zip it up like quietly so I could sit down. But, like little things like that.
So when you notice the muscles that you haven't seen before, like you're toning up,
Yeah.
Where are you noticing them?
Oh my! I showed Libby yesterday. I was like, "Have you seen this?"
So the back of your arms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I mean, just to share the results that you've got so far. So like, we've noticed 15 pounds of weight lost. Now the really interesting thing with this is that although we've noticed 15 pounds of weight dropped, we've noticed that there's 20 pounds of actual body fat gone from the body scans that Karina has had. And this is one of the amazing things that not a lot of people see. Now this is from July last year, so I imagine that these are going to have changed slightly, but it's never a push to get someone to do this. The main thing here is like to understand what your needs are, how your clothes fit, how you're feeling. You're noticing muscles, which is a massive positive. If your performance has gone up in the gym, which we'll talk about in a sec, that's a great thing. But since Karina had joined us in January, in 7 months, we've noticed 15 pounds of weight dropped, 20 pounds of body fat, and we've noticed an increase of 5 pounds of muscle mass as well. So this is massive in terms of being able to maintain it as well. One of the things that a lot of ladies will focus on is losing all of that weight, but then they never really focus on maintaining it. And this is something that we try and dial in right from the get-go, helping you to understand how to get results, but how to sustain them, and obviously get to the point where Karina is right now, where it's no longer about the scales, it's about the way that you feel and the people that you're around, and keeping on moving with that. So when it comes to strength, then the main thing that we've chatted about recently, we've just done a test week.
Yeah.
So for everybody, what we do is we work in 12-week cycles within the program. Week 13, we generally do a little bit of a test. Now, this is to see how well you're progressing. This is to see how we need to personalize the approach moving forward, and to help some of our members to reset their goals and refocus what they want to achieve moving forward. Because it's really easy to jump on board with a 6-week boot camp. It's really easy to jump on board with a very short challenge. But what a lot of people fail to do is to maintain that long term. Whereas doing it in these blocks, we can focus on progression throughout the year and help you to get results similar to Karina. Karina's not focused on the scales, but we are noticing differences in muscle mass. You're noticing a difference in your body. So we can use different metrics to measure that, but performance in the gym helps us to see those improvements. Now, deadlift, you sounded really excited about that when I could hear it in your voice when I read that message. I had to read the message like 2 or 3 times, and Libby had shouted down to you, and have you seen the message from Karina? And I was like, read it, and I was like, that's class, I love it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that then. So you reached out, was it yesterday, the day before?
Wednesday, yeah.
Wednesday, and told us obviously you'd done the deadlift. What was that?
So I managed 3 reps of 100.
100 kilos,
Yeah.
225
Unreal.
pounds.
Yeah. So it's just for me to like look back to how I was struggling to like walk. I was struggling to like go upstairs and do my job. To then like a year later to be able to deadlift that it just blew my mind.
That's amazing. I mean, even to talk about not just the physical aspects, like being in that dark place, like to where you are now, it's completely different shift. What else have you noticed, like with your strength, your mobility?
Well, everything has gone up. I like to play a game while I'm in the gym. I like to beat I don't call it personal best, I call it high score.
Right,
so
okay.
I like to beat my high score on what I can do. It's my own little, like 1% better than the day before kind of thing. So when it comes to test week, it's like, that's my week. I'm going to beat all my scores. And it doesn't even need to be like going up in weight. It could be reps, how many reps I can do. See, I think I love test week. But my last high score was 85 for 8 for the deadlifts.
Mm-hmm.
And I got in my head that I wanted to do 100. What I want to do is to do my first original weight. I want to be able to deadlift my whole weight where I was when I first started. That's my ultimate goal. But my little stepping stone's 100. So to even think about picking that up like a year later is just crazy for me.
So what's the weight that you want to aim to deadlift?
120.
Right. Okay. So I mean, we're not a million miles away.
No, definitely not.
That's probably something that you could achieve this year.
Yeah.
If we break it down, I mean, we're moving in following the end of this week. We're moving into the next block. So I can let the coaches know that. What else would you love to achieve?
My goal, I don't know actually. No, I want to dead. Once I've done that, I'll think of a new one. But
Okay,
that's
cool.
my main sort of.
So yeah, just keeping it focused on that. And I mean, I think one of the nice things that you mentioned there, and I've heard this term mentioned a couple of times previously, is like it seems like you're gamifying coming into the gym.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the cool things when we're doing it, because we can look at the quality of work that we do in every single session that we do. A lot of people who go to the gym who don't enjoy it go and it's going through the motions. I'm just trying to get it done. But like when you're doing it, it's like, oh, I want to beat my best score.
Yeah.
I want to improve my score. And that's just a cool way that in your head, you're adapting that session so that like you look forward to coming and doing it.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? And when you're doing your strength, like when we do the deadlift sessions, it's like, oh right, I know the deadlift sessions there. I'm not missing that. Make sure that I come in for that. I know that these exercises are going to help me to strengthen that. Like anything that's leg related is going to help to bolster that. If there's any accessory work on it, you can work on that as well. And you can eventually get towards doing that 120, and it's just on to the next goal and focus on what comes next. Because this is where progression comes in. This is exactly what we do that's different from the majority of other places. It'd be really easy to sit here and say, oh, we're going to do 3 sets of 10 on these 4 different exercises, get everyone to do that, everyone uses the same weight, but that doesn't help people to get results. And this is one of the major differences that we'll focus within the sessions, is because on any given day, if Karina comes in next week and you were injured, we'd accommodate for that. If you come in next week and you're full of energy, you've got a week off work, which sometimes you're fortunate enough to do because you get good holidays at work, you can come in and you can push that a little bit more. But it's not just that, it's the people that you're around as well.
I was wanting to put in with that, like there's a lady that I work quite closely with, and when my first test week in March, from January to March, she helped me get to a good high score in the deadlift, and I was blown away by that. But I feel like, you know, we've met outside of the gym, that kind of thing, but like she pushes me. It's gentle encouragement, but like she pushes me and she gives me like the funny faces if I pick up like a weight that she knows is too light for me. You know, and it's just that gentle encouragement and that sort of the banter that we have between us. But I mean, the whole class that I'm in, we have a laugh. You know, you start to care a little bit more about the people that you're with, and you hear their stories, you hear their struggles, and like the atmosphere is unreal. Like when you've got people like side by side and going, go on Karina, you can do it. And like, it just sort of, I've never been in an environment where you have women supporting women at that level. Like they're really rooting for you. It's not that this like sort of fake oh yeah, you know, whatever.
Well
it's
done, good job.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel.
It doesn't hit properly when it's fake, but they actually want you to win. They're watching you win, and it's quite powerful.
Who's the lady? So the lady's Sharon.
Yeah.
And I mean, you bounced off one another when we did the what is it, the 7 or the 8 bridges
Oh god, yeah.
that
Yeah.
we didn't completely do because of the road work. So we went out for a walk quite recently. We did the bridges along the River Tees. You can tell me if I'm wrong. I think it's 8, 7 or 8, something like that. But we did those bridges, and you were walking, chatting with Sharon, and you just both powered off, storming along because you were way faster than the rest of us. Walked along there, and you had a really good rapport with that. But yeah, when you were doing that, it was a thing. Yeah, so it was amazing to see. But you've built that connection with that group of ladies, like the 10:30 ladies. You've got such a good connection and a good rapport with them. And as you mentioned, like, it's genuine what you experience within that. And I think that's one of the biggest things about this program. Like, we talk to ladies all the time. Obviously you've got the personalization from the coaches. You get all the help and support that you need inside and outside the gym. All you need to do is reach out to us and let us know. But the biggest thing here is the community. If you go somewhere and you don't feel supported, if you've got that fake community, you're not really going to stick to that. And I think the biggest thing for me, having heard you say that, is that you went from being in lockdown, loving being on your own with a book, to now being this person who's socialising with other people and looking forward to your sessions. And not only that, you're connecting with some of the ladies outside as well.
When I first started, there was times where I was sat in the car, like outside, and I was thinking, do I go in? Should I not go in? But then, like, when you push yourself just to walk across the car park and open the door, even the way that you knew our names coming, like, you made a point of saying, oh, hello, Karina. I'm like, you don't even know me. How do you know my name? Like, every time I came in.
Yeah.
And it was, that meant quite a lot for me, like, especially I'd say I'm socially awkward. Going into that environment to have somebody that knows your name already, and like, that meant a lot. But now I'm like straight in. I'm there 10 minutes early.
Get a little bit about what's been going on with that. So I mean, one of the other big areas that I'd love to talk about is Rosie. The difference we've noticed there. We get messages off Karina all the time about what's going on. We get eggs off you from the chickens, which we absolutely love. They just hit different than going to the shop. But tell us a little bit about the difference that you've noticed in Rosie, like the knock-on impact of that.
Well, we used to have takeaways about 3, 4, 5 times a week. She's probably a bit upset that we don't do that as much. But no, we were less of a microwave family. We've started eating fresh, which sometimes when you're working like 12-hour shifts and like all the clubs and stuff like that, it's difficult. But it's also given us time to like be in the kitchen together, that she can learn kitchen skills. We can debrief throughout the day where she's not just glued to her phone. You know, she enjoys that time where she sits up on the counter and we just talk rubbish, put the world to rights sort of thing. There's times where she's actually preferred my food over takeaways, and I'll go, oh, you have McDonald's, I'm eating all this to myself. And she's like, no, let me have some. So it's definitely turned a corner that way. Don't get me wrong, we're not completely perfect. Yesterday we managed to smash 2 14-inch pizzas. So like, you know, it's not about being 100% of the time, and you've got to have a little bit of balance. She's a lot more educated with food, and I don't want to pass on my emotional eating to her. So it's almost like passing down some good habits as well and unlearning some bad ones. But she's a lot more active now in my time here. Like, she's going off and coming back and saying, oh, I did this yoga pose, and we try doing her things, and I go, oh, look what I did at the gym today, try this. And that's where you get the
hip thrust video. You had to do in the hip thrust recently, didn't you? But I mean, that's amazing to hear. I mean, one of my biggest goals from doing this is not only to help people get the results, whatever they may look like, it's to help them to inspire the people around them. Whether it's friends, you get those connections in the gym because, as you said, it's ladies supporting ladies, but it's them passing that positive influence on to your children. Because ultimately, like, all of this stuff that goes on around healthcare around people gaining weight, around people struggling with exercise, the mobility. Like, these things can be changed if we have the right attitude. Now, I'm not stood in front of your daughter, I'm not coaching your daughter. There are lots of different things that are places that you can take your kids to do those sort of activities. But as a positive first step, if our children, I mean, I'm a dad now, I've got a daughter, I'm thinking about this every single day, even though she's only just over 1 year old, I'm thinking about this every single day. What is the impact that my behaviours, my habits and my routines have then on her? I don't want her to, as you mentioned, emotional eating. I don't want to have a negative view of like being bad because we went to McDonald's. I'm trying to be good, so I'm eating salad. Like, those things are not exclusively distinct from one another. Going to the shop and getting a grab and go meal or something like that might be the best possible option given what you were doing. Like, if you're travelling up to Scotland, is your dad still in Scotland?
Yeah.
So if you're travelling up to Scotland and you're like, right, we need to make a stop off on the way, it's like part of a treat. It forms part of the journey. It forms part of those memories. So being able to have those like in your good times, in times when you find challenging, like, it allows you to connect better with those emotions. Because no one's sitting there and going like we've had a really challenging week this week, let's get a salad. No one thinks like that. No one thinks that way when you've got a job, or she's graduated from university, when she eventually like goes down that path, if that's what she wants. Let's go out and celebrate. Let's get a salad. Like, no one's thinking like that. People go out for a meal to have joy in their life, and when you take all of that stuff away, you lose all of that. And I think that's one of the most amazing things there, is like, you've been able to do that in such a, not necessarily unstructured way, but like, you've been able to do it in such a natural and organic way. Yeah. You're having conversations now in the kitchen, putting the world to rights, as you mentioned, rather than just saying, oh, we can't have this.
We do wall sits to who gets the last brownie. Sometimes it comes in a 3, so whoever lasts the longest gets the brownie.
Yeah.
Just as a bit of a joke in the kitchen.
How many times has Rosie won?
Quite a few, to be fair.
They're not easy. But yeah, I mean, this is probably the major thing for me, is like, forget the results, forget the gym. If we can have a positive impact on as many ladies as we can in the Teesside area, and then they have a positive impact on their children. Like, that was one of the best things that I talk about all the time. Going out for a walk in lockdown in that 1 hour that we were allowed, seeing the parents out with the kids on the bikes. I see that less and less now. Like, walking around the barrage, there's like parents walking around, someone walking the dog, but you don't see the kids on the bikes, like laughing and having a good time. And I think that's one of the major things that's missing. We're all stressed out with work, we're all stressed out with what's going on. And like, everything that you've had previously, you love lockdown, you've had this injury, but it seems like you've come out of your shell a little bit more now. And the impact that has had on Rosie has been massive. And you seem way happier and way more confident in just chatting about that stuff, because you can see the difference in how you're talking about it. And I think that's one of the most amazing things. So what are your thoughts and feelings about the future? Where do you want to take your health and fitness next? What sort of impact do you want that to have?
I think I'm going to focus a little bit more on food, a little bit more. At the moment, I don't calorie count, don't look at numbers or anything like that. But I think as part of this fitness journey, I just need to tighten up a little bit with what I do with food and my relationship with food, because still in my head I have, this is a bad food. No food's inherently bad. You know, it's not, I need to get out of that sort of mindset a little bit more. But I think just pushing again to get my new high scores and just see what things I can lift, basically.
Cool. Listen, I've really appreciated you coming down, having a chat. It's amazing to catch up. I love the fact that you've been able to keep going this long. I'm excited about the prospect of seeing that deadlift in the future, and then obviously getting all those videos and the challenges that you do with Rosie as well, and just seeing where things go for you. But I really appreciate you coming down, Karina. Thank you for your time. And
thank you.
Yeah, listen guys, I really appreciate having these chats with our members. It's amazing to have these conversations, and I think this is one of the biggest challenges that most ladies face, is finding something that they enjoy. Now, I'm not saying that Infinity might be perfect for you, but one of the best ways that you can find out is doing what Karina did. Reach out, have a chat to us, figure out if it's going to be the right solution for you, and move forward with that. There are many different options in the Teesside area. We work with ladies who are 40 plus. We personalize what you do to what your lifestyle looks like and what you want in terms of results. You could be sitting here in 6 or 12 months from now having the same sort of conversation about the impact that it's currently had on your life. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about what we do, how we work and how we can help you, drop us a message on the channels mentioned below and I will have a chat to you and we'll see where we go from there. Thanks for watching this podcast. I will see you in the next one. I need to work on my